Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Winner's Circle. I'm Ross Benjamin, along with my co-host, Mr. Chip Chirimbes out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Chipper, I hope this year brings a lot of luck for you, your family, your friends, and everybody else out there, because we've all suffered a little bit in some way, shape, or form in 2020 for obvious reasons. So, Chipper, how are you today?
I'm great because, as my mom always used to say to me, Paulie, your health is your wealth. So I'm feeling great.
Hey,
great day on the last day of the year like yesterday, and rearing to go.
More prophetic words have never been spoken. So,
right.
Your health is everything. And I wish everybody be safe out there until we get this vaccine going. This COVID-19 thing is not only affected the worldwide on a worldwide basis, but also we've seen the effect it's had on the sports business as well. I mean, we went for what, Chip? 4 months without work?
At least.
So anyway, all right. So today, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover, there's 4 college football bowl games being played tomorrow, Saturday, January the 2nd. And we're going to cover those 4 games. And then we're going to key in on 4 NFL games being played on Sunday that have playoff implications. I just think that normally we would go through the entire board in the NFL, but we've decided, look, I mean, with the uncertainty, who's going to play in some of these games being unmeaningful, and Patrick Mahomes is going to be sitting out. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be sitting out. So let's just concentrate on the 4 games that probably have, well, not probably, in my estimation, have the most meaning. That's Washington, Philly, Green Bay, Chicago, Dallas Giants, and Arizona, and the Rams. Let's get to the college football first, Chipper. Let's start with the game between Kentucky, as they're 4-6 on the year. And right now against NC State, they are a 2.5-point favorite. And we saw this yesterday with Mississippi State, a favorite against a team that a favorite at 3-7 against a winning team.
Yes.
And we saw the results there. Mississippi State wins 28-26. So seems like a similar situation here.
Yeah, very much so. And one additional factor here is that NC State, who I believe is 8-4 or 7-4, they have a better record. We know that 8-3, even better. And they're a ranked team. I mean, they're ranked in the top 25, and they're an underdog against a 4-7 Kentucky team, or
4-6. Yes,
4-6, and that's a weak 4-6 that they have too as well, Ross. I mean, they were just horrible offensively. How they come up a favorite here is one of the great unknowns. I mean, I can't figure this out, other than maybe they're doing business here, or they know that there's a number of players that are not going to be available to play, like what happened to us in the Florida game where we were blindsided. I have to think that somebody knew that was going to happen. Do you think those players just bailed out the night before the day of the game, or did they know ahead of time? So maybe that has something to do with why Kentucky would be favored here. Otherwise, I just don't see it, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, look, 4-6, like we alluded to. They're 4 wins, Chipper, this year. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. Those teams went a combined 8-31 this year. Those are their 4 wins. So NC State, on the other hand, they only had 4 games against winning teams this year as well. So, and their record was 1-3 in those games. Their only win coming against Liberty, who had a winning record, and that was barely 15-14.
Right.
So it's not like either one of these teams have stellar resumes, other than the fact that NC State, they got the better record. But like you said, the books aren't that generous. They're not going to make a 4-6 team the favorite in a bowl game against a team 8-3 unless they have valid reasons to do so.
Wouldn't you call this the don't make sense line of the bowl season so far?
Well, I mean, you could look at the Mississippi State Tulsa game and say the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was right along the same lines. I mean, even more so because at least Kentucky, they won 4 games and they were competitive, and a lot of the others they lost. Mississippi State, I mean, they went into that bowl game. I mean, yeah, they came off their finale against Ole Miss, which they won the game. But by the same token, they struggled for the majority of the year. After that LSU win, and we both know that LSU win isn't as big as it was back then.
They went out, won that first game, lost 7 of 8, and then won their final game. Yeah. So they end up lost 6 or 7, whatever it was, and so they end up where they were. Horrible season for them, and I mean they won the game yesterday. They came up big, but the fight was a draw.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to the next game, which is a bit intriguing. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's first year running the ship there in Oxford, Mississippi, and they're 4-5 on the season. They're going to take on an Indiana team that's had an awfully good year, Chipper.
Yeah.
And right now, as we speak, I believe Indiana is an 8-point favorite in this game, and the total is 65. Chipper, your thoughts?
My thoughts are Indiana has had a great year, and I'm really wondering whether they can sustain it. Getting into a bowl position as a very strong favorite is a unique position for them. And so I'm questioning that. And of course, this bowl season is so different than anything else we've ever had. Teams have virtual short resumes. Usually during the college season, Ross, you can gather an idea and a momentum what's going to happen to these teams, but there's really been no flow with all these teams having games being canceled. And this is a strange one here in the fact that Mississippi may come alive against this team from the Big Ten. I don't know if Indiana's motivation has got to be in question here. I don't know. I'd like to know because I really do like their coaching and I like this team's camaraderie and the way they come out to play. They're looking to play and win. If Indiana comes out ready to play, I think they win this game.
Yeah. And again, it's not like Indiana's used to being in this position, meaning playing a bowl game in January, so you got to think they're going to be motivated. The program hasn't been in this position probably since the mid 60s, meaning having such a successful year. I mean, they only played 7 games this year, 6-1. Their only loss at Ohio State, 42-35, and they had a chance in that game too, Chipper, with a nice comeback. Ole Miss concerns me because they could score, as we know. The good news is they average 40 points a game. The bad news, Chip, is they allow 40 points a game as well. Yeah. So, and some interesting side notes here in terms of the total. Indiana's gone 4-1 to the over this year when there's been a total of 53 or greater, and Ole Miss has gone 3-0 to the over this year when a total is 70 or less. So, again, Indiana's missing their starting quarterback, Michael Penix. But they've had to play a couple games without him, Chip. This may be, I'm leaning toward a high scoring affair here.
Well, I can see it. Like you said, Mississippi doesn't play that well on the other side of the ball. They move the ball and score enough. And I could see this, this, like I said, this Indiana team, I just, Ross, think about that first game of the season against Penn State.
Yeah.
When everything went their way. They were so fortunate. They were so outplayed and really had no shot in the game except for a blunder at the goal line for Penn State, which gave Indiana the opportunity to win the game. And they really took off after that and used it. They used it as a springboard and they had a great season. So I have, and usually in situations like this, I would be looking toward Mississippi, but I'm struggling with this because of the kind of season Indiana's had. And I have faith in their coaching. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, to me, they will be very much motivated in this game.
Yeah.
I can't see otherwise. And the game you're referring to, that Penn State game, was a season opener in which they won 36-35. And Penn State outgained them 488 to 211 in that game. Yeah. And Penn State missed 3 field goals. Penn State turned the ball over 3 times. So,
and 10 penalties.
Yeah, and 10 penalties in that game. So, Chip, you got a good memory. It must have been a game that you had.
Well, I didn't. I was just so disappointed because I do root for the Nittany Lions, and being from that was the only team. If you're from the East Coast or virtually New York, that's the only football team you used to root for. And so, to see and then for them to come out and lose, what was it, the first 4 games of the year after that game, they just never recovered from it.
Yeah, actually the first 5, if I'm not
mistaken.
First
5, right.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get to the next game. And that game, bear with me, is Oregon and Iowa State, Chipper. Now, this one interests me because this is what I would consider to be a very tough call. You got an Oregon team that's got a new lease on life after going 3-2 in the regular season and finishing second in their division. They were afforded the opportunity to go to the Pac-12 title game because the team that finished ahead of them, Washington, had COVID-19 issues, and they took advantage of that and defeated USC in that game, undefeated USC at that. And then they're taking on an Iowa State team who is 8-3, certainly has played a lot more than Oregon this year. Their 3 losses have all come against top 25 teams, Chip. This will be the first ever January bowl game for Iowa State. So, and there are a lot of firsts for Iowa State, Chip. First time they've ever played in a Big 12 title game. Right. First time in really in a major bowl game in program history. And you got to think they're going to be the motivated team. And here's what I'm looking at, Chip. And I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Sometimes when looking at the resume, I look and Oregon has 2 bad losses. They only lost 2 games, and in my estimation, they were bad losses. At Oregon State, they lose 41-38 as a 13-point favorite. At California, they lose 21-17 as a 9.5-point favorite. And then the Pac-12 title game that they won against undefeated USC, let's keep in mind, they only had 243 yards of total offense in that game, and they still won because of 3 USC turnovers. So what's your take here?
Well, I think Oregon looks like the black sheep here. They get into the Pac-12 championship game, which they didn't belong there, obviously, and they beat USC in a game where you said, they didn't even get 300 yards offense. And they're known for having a great offense. They're known for scoring prolifically. And one thing it sticks in my head at the beginning of the season when we were first started discussing stuff, you gave me a little clue about this Iowa State team. You told me that they're really tough. They're one of the good teams, and they had a shot of winning the Big 12. And you got to prove it to me first. Let me see it. And like you said, first time playing on a New Year's Day bowl game, first time playing in for the Pac-12, for the Big 12 championship. So they are a cut above the normal Cyclone team we've seen in the past. And I think Oregon is actually a step below the teams, the Pac-12 champions that we've seen in the past. So I'm a little afraid of Oregon's speed. And but I think that Iowa State is strong enough and has enough to overcome this team. I really haven't done any final work on it yet, Ross. I have to admit that because today's a big day, and I'll have it ready by tomorrow morning. But your first impression when you look at this game, I'm thinking that Oregon's weaker and that Iowa State is much stronger than we normally see these 2 clubs.
Yeah, and the 2 starting quarterbacks in this game, Brock Purdy of Iowa State and the kid from Oregon, Slough. These 2 played against each other in high school, believe it or not. And in those games, Brock Purdy won both contests against Slough, 65-63 and 63-60. Wouldn't it be nice if we saw something like that again?
I think we should play the over.
Yeah, they're both from the state of Arizona, and the game is being played in Arizona. So it's a homecoming of sort for both of those kids. So this is a game I'm really going to look forward to, Chip, as well as the next one, which involves North Carolina and Texas A&M. Carolina 8-3 on the year, A&M 8-1. A lot of people, including those in the state of Texas, are very disturbed with the NCAA playoff committee for leaving Texas A&M out of the college football playoff. Their only loss was against Alabama. I certainly don't agree. I think that Texas A&M didn't deserve to be there. Right. I think the right 4 teams are in it, but that's a matter of opinion. North Carolina coming off a season-ending 62-26 win at Miami. Chipper, what do you think here? Right now, Texas A&M is a 7-point favorite, and the total is 65.5.
Well, all year long, I think we've sort of acknowledged, and the fact that you said that you don't think they belonged in the top 4, this Texas A&M team, and I never thought they were in that group. And I don't know how disappointed they could be because they never were in there. Then never, to me, got to that point. Now, all year long, we've been looking at this A&M team and saying they haven't really passed the eye test. They're not as strong as people are giving them credit for. And they did come on strong at the end of the year. And what bothers me about this game, and I'm really up in the air about this game right now, is the fact that there's such a strong favorite, 7.5-point favorite over a team that scored 62 points their last game, that had 770 yards in total offense, 554 yards rushing, and they're an underdog in this game, a healthy underdog, 7.5, I think, right now. And it bothers me. It bothers me because I'm wondering if the bookmaker is looking to entice me and trying to get me to take the Tar Heels or to take the points. Here's a team that's a prolific offense, scores anytime. And look, this team had a great year, this North Carolina team. And I rode them throughout the entire season for the most part. But I'm a little skeptical here. I mean, I would love to have them, and I may end up with them because you have two, one man always said to me, you have two chances to win as an underdog. You can win the game outright, and you can lose the game on the scoreboard and win in your pocketbook. So I lean toward the underdog here, but I am very afraid of this A&M team. I hope they don't come up and bite the Tar Heels here.
They've won 7 in a row, Chipper,
yeah.
Meaning Texas A&M.
Right.
And also, if you stop and think about it, their schedule, strength of schedule. I'm going through both resumes. In Texas A&M unequivocally has played a stronger schedule. So that in itself lends itself to where this point spread is. I don't have a problem with where the point spread is. I think it's accurate. Here's the thing. Is Texas A&M going to be able to slow down this North Carolina offense? This is an offense that's, like Chipper alluded to, has been prolific this year. And Sam Howell is one hell of a quarterback. Here's my other thing, Chip. I've mentioned this to you on a couple occasions, and I've shared it with the audience more than once. These teams that, quote unquote, get snubbed, meaning Texas A&M not making the college football playoff, despite being a one-loss team, playing in the SEC, and their only loss coming against number 1 Alabama.
Right.
A lot of people from the, just on the surface will say, well, they're going to be out to prove something. My experience has been the teams that get snubbed, whether it be in this situation or even more so when it comes to the NCAA tournament in college basketball, where you see a team get snubbed and then come out extremely flat in the NIT tournament. Again, that's something I factor in, Chip.
I do too. I think you're right about this because, where's your incentive? What goal do they accomplish? Do they win here? So what? I mean, they can't end up number 1 no matter what. And if they do move into the top 4 finally, so what? The season's over. They weren't there when it counted. I think you're right. There's a problem here because I believe what you're saying with it. They're not looking to go out and prove everyone wrong. I think they're more despondent when they enter that game as what could have been. This could have been a big time for us, and look where we are. So
you're playing an ACC team with 3 losses now. That's your consolation prize. And again, I always use the boxing analogy when you have a good offense getting points, that you have a puncher's chance. And North Carolina, Chip, like you touched upon earlier, 43 points per game and 556 yards per game in total offense.
That's pretty good.
You got to believe, being an underdog, that you're going to be able to stay competitive. You look at their losses this year, 2 of them were by 3 points on each occasion. And the other one was against Notre Dame.
Notre Dame,
yeah.
I had Carolina that game. I got beat.
Yeah. So, again, seems like an inviting spot for the underdog here. Chipper, let's give, we're going to cover the NFL, the 4 games I alluded to at the top of the show.
Right.
But let's give the listeners and viewers who have been waiting patiently a free pick in college football. And then the NFL segment, we'll give them an NFL free pick as well. So Chipper,
I'm trying to think again of what we have going tomorrow. We're talking about college football.
Right. Well, let me start. I'll start and to give you time to think here.
Yeah.
Kentucky in North Carolina State. I know Kentucky is not known for their offense, and their defense was pretty good for most of the year. but they tailed off a bit at the end. And here's the other thing. Since 2018, under this current coaching staff, the Kentucky Wildcats have gone over the total in all 9 of their games against non-conference opponents, which obviously this qualifies. Kentucky's also gone over the total in 3 of their last 4 games, and those 4 contests averaged a combined 60.5 points scored per game. And North Carolina State played 4 games away from Raleigh this year. All 4 went over the total, and those games averaged a combined 64.2 points per game. And again, I touched upon the Kentucky defense, which I've seen many people refer to them as, well, yeah, maybe they're not very good offensively, but they're good defensively. Well, they allowed 400 plus yards in 4 of their last 5 and 5 of their last 6 games. So it's not like they've been stopping people of late. So I'm going to go in a different direction here than most people would think. And I see a lot of under action in this game, but I'm going to go over the total of 48.5, Chipper. And also, Chipper, if you look since 2016, college football bowl games with a total of 42.5 to 49 have gone 42-16 to the over. And that includes yesterday's Mississippi State and Tulsa game. So I'm going over the total here, Chip. Kentucky, North Carolina State over 48.5 as my free selection on Saturday, January 22nd in college football. What do you got, buddy?
Well, while we were sitting here talking, I had an epiphany, and I think that I'm going to go right to that A&M North Carolina game. Just you revealing all those stats to me and me recalling the kind of season that the Tar Heels have had and how good they've been to us. I think that that's the side for me tomorrow night. I'm going to take the points and take a shot here. Hopefully, A&M isn't looking to prove that they are the best team in the country, because I don't think they can anyway, Ross. And they finally got the running game going a little bit here, but like we said, this North Carolina team, they'll let you run the ball because they're going to put up points once they get it in their hands. So I'm going to take Carolina plus the points.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they would have got in, Chip, meaning Texas A&M,
right,
they would have been the number 4 seed, like Notre Dame. And Notre Dame right now is a 19.5 point underdog against Alabama today. And they got blown out by Alabama earlier in the year. So again,
I had them.
Yeah, I don't know. I could certainly see why, if you're an A&M fan, player, or member of the coaching staff, you're disappointed. But by the same token, I think the right 4 teams are in. Let's get to the NFL. Again, our college football free picks is Chipper likes North Carolina plus the 7 over Texas A&M, and I'm on Kentucky and North Carolina State over 48.5. Those are our 2 college football free picks for Saturday, January 2nd. On to the NFL, Chipper, where many of these games on the board are of little significance. And again, folks, I don't know how you feel about this, Chip, but I really tend to tread very lightly in these week 17 matchups in the NFL, because obviously a lot of teams have been eliminated. Teams that have clinched the playoff spot and can't improve their seeding, or don't care if they improve their seeding because home field doesn't mean a lot this year, sit a lot of starters. So how do you approach week 17 in the NFL, Chip?
I think you brought out a good point. That I remember in the old days running around in Las Vegas when I first got here, the final week of the season was always a struggle. I mean, the lines would change. Like you said, who's not going to play? You'd have a team that's got 2 wins all season. They're on the road on the final weekend, and they're a 6.5 point favorite. So these are anomalies which happens. And we're going to talk about one of these games and where the line is so skewed that you have to pay attention to it. And I think this final week 17 actually offers us a little bit more opportunities this season than I've seen in the past. And maybe because of the way the playoffs are set up, or the way that these teams have decided they're just not going to play. And we're going to discuss some of these games and why the line is where it is.
Okay, let's start with the Washington at Philadelphia game. That game has been flexed to 8:20 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Interesting. Washington wins, they're in.
Right.
That's the bottom line. If they lose, they're out. and they
Right.
opened as a 1-point favorite. They're now a 2-point favorite at Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia has been eliminated, like I said a couple days ago. Who would have thought going into week 17 in the regular season that if one team was going to be eliminated from the NFC East race, it would be the Philadelphia Eagles. But there you have it. But, they have been reinvigorated a bit with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. And Washington still, Chipper, we don't know if it's going to be Alex Smith or Taylor Heineke, a guy that was taking online classes a few weeks ago. So what's your thoughts, buddy?
Well, I think that when I look at this game, I think about Philadelphia being rejuvenated with Hurts, like you said, and Washington being in a position where we don't even know who their quarterback is going to be. And yet they went from a 1 to a 2-point favorite, I guess, because of the motivation, the position they're in, Ross. I mean, they do win. They captured the
NFC least
division. And, otherwise, we'll see Dallas or the Giants there. And I'm ready to wear my New York gear next week. I'll tell you that right now. But I think this game, the way it sets up Philadelphia, who hasn't had the best defensive seasons of late. I mean, they really used to hang their hat on their defense. And we know that Washington does. I mean, Washington, especially with the quarterback situation being up in the air, I think this game plays to the under, Ross. I think that Washington's going to try and be conservative. They're going to try and control the ball and run. I think they're going to try and run because their quarterbacking situation is in such flux. What are we going to do with Alex Smith? Is he able to play?
Yeah.
We know Haskins isn't going to be there. So I think it's going to be conservative all the way around. So I think this game stays under the total.
If you look at Doug Peterson's history since he's taken over as head coach in Philadelphia, the Eagles are a big play as an under at home. Yeah. I don't have the exact statistics in front of me, but I'm sure that if you have the time to check what I'm saying, you're going to find what I'm saying to be pretty accurate. Yes, this is a game I think that Washington, regardless of who's at quarterback, is going to lean heavily on their run game. And the Eagles, their defense hasn't lived up to expectations, but it's still pretty good and might be even better against a team that doesn't pose a lot of threats as far as offensive punch in Washington. And also Terry McLaurin, the top wide receiver for the football team, may not be available due to injury. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Chip. This looks like a 17-13, 2013 type of game. And again, folks, don't forget, just because a team needs to win more than the other team, meaning Washington versus Philadelphia, doesn't necessarily mean that makes them a lock. You know what I mean, Chip? And I think too many people fall prey to that.
This is virtually a playoff game for Washington, right? I mean, they have to win here, and that's it. But the NFL was pretty clever the way they moved this game into the flex situation and kept the Dallas-New York game early, so that one of those teams are going to be sitting on the edge of their seat the entire night, Sunday night. But
well, let's talk about that game. Dallas at the New York Giants, 1 p.m. Eastern time start. Dallas opened as a 2.5-point favorite, Chipper. I see them anywhere from -1 to -2, depending on where you look. Again, as Chip touched upon, the winner of this game is going to be a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, because if whoever wins this game, if Philadelphia beats Washington in that nightcap, we're going to be looking at the NFC least champion as the winner of this game. So a lot of interest in a division that really doesn't deserve the kind of interest they've been getting over the last few weeks, but it's been so wide open. It makes it a little bit entertaining to watch NFC East games.
I had said that to you in the mid-season, Ross. I said, comes down, that's going to be the most exciting part of the year, and it is. I mean, they got 3 teams that are terrible, absolutely terrible. Well, 4 teams that are terrible in the same division, and all the eyes are on them because they are the key factors of getting into the playoffs right now.
Yeah, and again, we've mentioned this, Chip, on many times. The Giants have been so good as a road underdog since 2018, but they've been terrible at home. And this year is not much different. You know what I mean? Right. They're a little bit better, I would say. But These teams played in early October, and Dallas won that game 37-34. That was the game that Dak Prescott got hurt in. And so that was the last game that Dak Prescott started. The Giants probably deserved to win that game, Chipper. I don't know. What do you think here? It's a tough call. I mean, right now, if you have to say who's playing the better football, unequivocally, it's the Dallas Cowboys, who's won 3 in a row, covered 3 in a row, and they're playing a team that's lost 3 and failed to cover in all 3 of those contests. So, meaning losing their last 3, I should say.
Yeah, like you said, Dallas has all the momentum. They won 3 in a row. They were the favorites to come out of the division as it was. Have had a horrible season with injuries and all kinds of problems. They turned the ball over. They couldn't stop anybody half the season. But they look like a different team now. All of a sudden, Andy Dalton seems to have settled in, and the Giants are going south after they had 6 straight losses early in the year, and they come back with 4 straight wins, and in New York they're printing Super Bowl tickets, and now they have to win here, and they're in a tough spot for sure. But Ross, their home record as an underdog is atrocious. Like you said, I think they're like 6-22 or 6-24 in their last 30. I'm getting an exact number. We can get it up, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. They just haven't played well at home, and as underdogs, they haven't played well at home, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, Chipper, since 2018, the Giants are 3-14 against the spread as a home underdog, and 2-15 straight up. And why am I mentioning the straight up number? Because they're only getting a point to 2 points in this game. So virtually whoever wins this game in all probability is going to cover. I mean, that's a no-brainer there. So, again, if I have to make a pick right now, in a lean right now, it would be hard not to take Dallas Cowboys for all the reasons that you just touched upon, Chip, and then the terrible home underdog record of the New York Giants. And like you said, I just think that Andy Dalton is starting to become more comfortable in this offense and more familiarity with his receivers. I mean, it's too bad he went down for a few games with a concussion, because I think they would have been even better at this point. They're coming off a game against Philadelphia. They won 37-17, and they put up 513 yards of total offense. In this current 3-game win streak, Chip, the Dallas Cowboys are 11 to 17, plus 9 in the turnover margin. So,
well, that helps.
Yeah, especially when your defense isn't that good. If they've forced, I should say, 10 turnovers during this current 3-game win streak. So something to keep in mind there. Certainly is a much more interesting game than should be for 2 teams with the records they have at this particular juncture in time, but it is what it is.
Russ, what's the total on this game right now?
The total is it's down to 44.5. It opened, let me look at this real quickly so I'm accurate with everybody. It opened at 47. It's down to 44.5.
Wow.
Yeah, and we said the Giants or the Dallas offense has really woke up of late, but the Giants, if I recall, have played under the total a lot recently. Let me once again be patient with me here, folks. And the Giants, I believe, have gone under the total in each of their last 5 games, if I'm not mistaken. Oh. So bear with me here.
Yeah, well, they've been. I mean, Barkley went down, and our boy Goldman came and was having a great season. But in the last couple of weeks, they bottled him up a little bit, and they just haven't been able to move the ball.
Yeah, and to go back to my point, the New York Football Giants have gone under the total in their last 6 games, Chip.
There you go.
And then if you go back even further, they've gone under the total. They're 8-1-1 to the under over their last 10. And for the season, they're 11-3-1 under the total on the year. And you look at their offensive production that you just touched upon, Chipper, they've scored 19 points or fewer in each of their last 5 games. So again, Dallas, on the other hand, has gone over the total in 5 of their last 6. But what this tells me here is with the Giants' anemic offensive production and Dallas producing offense, and also their defense, which has been much maligned for most of the season, with their ability to force turnovers of late. I have to have a lean toward Dallas in the spot, Chip.
I can understand. I can see it. It's a tough one. I'll wait for my call on Sunday.
Not showing his hand. That's okay. And talking about an interesting divisional matchup, the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. Green Bay 12-3. They still have not locked up the number 1 seed in the NFC. I stand corrected. One of the listeners astutely
I thought
brought that to my attention. I thought they already had.
I did too.
My mistake, because certainly you want to consider that when handicapping this game, right? Because that means to me that, hey, look, this bye is a big deal. So if they win this game, they get a bye, they get a week of rest. And unlike past seasons, Chip, only one team gets a bye in the first round. So
yeah, it's vital. It's pretty big. They've added an extra team and they took away a bye, which makes things work out numerically as they would love it. Tough call here, because what's the I mean, they're just a small number. Chicago needs this. And what has Chicago's offense done the last 4 times out there, Ross?
They've done awfully well.
Yeah, all of a sudden Trubinsky's a quarterback. And, we know Aaron Rodgers put points on the board. I think this is liable to be a high-scoring game, because Chicago's defense hasn't been as good as in years past. And listen, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers out there, it doesn't matter. He can spot you 14 points, 17 points, and he's going to come back on you. And my point is, he's going to score. That team is going to score. My question is, how much playing time is he going to get? I don't know who could beat them out for that number 1 spot. I think they had the tiebreaker edge over New Orleans. I think that was why we said we thought that they had clinched the spot.
Seattle's still alive.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, they're getting beat this weekend anyway. So
we got the Bears have scored, to your point, Chipper, 30 points or more in their last 4 games. And they've also, that running game. Look, you're talking about a Bears team from game 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. From game 4 to game 10, a rush for less than 100 yards, and their offensive line was being crucified for not protecting the passer, not opening up enough holes. But in their last 5 games, Chip, they've run for 122 yards or more. In all 5 of those games. You're looking at a couple games in which they really took off. 169 against Houston, 199 against Minnesota, 140 against Detroit. The kid Montgomery has been terrific. So
good back.
Yeah, I mean, and the Bears have been, to my recollection, a pretty good home underdog over the past few years, especially within this parameter, point spread parameter. So a lot on the line here. Chicago, I haven't mentioned, Chip. They need to win this game. If they win this game, they're in. If they lose, they're most likely out. So big game for Chicago.
What a season they've had. I mean,
topsy-turvy, to say the least.
They come out 5-1, wasn't it? And then they lost in a row.
Yeah.
And now they have to close the season with a pair of wins. And they put themselves in this position because it's going to be really tough to beat Green Bay if Green Bay comes to play. And why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they come?
Green Bay, as I recall, they dominated the Bears in the first matchup in Green Bay. I don't have that number up. Here it is. Green Bay won that opening game for the first time they met, 41-25 on November 29th. And they dominated statistically, as well as Green Bay racked up 351 yards compared to, anyway, it was 41-25. You get my point. All right, let's get to the next game. And that involves the Arizona Cardinals and the LA Rams. And it basically, whoever wins is in, and whoever loses is most likely out. So, again, I don't have the scenarios in front of me, but I do know this. The Rams will not have Jared Goff.
Right.
The Rams are reeling coming into this game, and so is Arizona a bit. But one thing they will have is Murray will be available at quarterback. Now, how healthy he is and how willing he's going to be to take off and run with the football, which he's so good at doing, is another question. Your take here, Chipper. Again, Arizona is a 3-point favorite in this game, a total of 40.5.
Well, I know you're not a carpenter, but you did hit the nail right on the head. Will Murray run the ball? And, they struggled when he stopped running. He hurt his shoulder, and we've been talking about this the latter part of the season. It takes so much away from their offense because his dynamic to sit there and scurry away and pick up 12 yards and that additional first down and sustain a drive. This is such a key factor in today's NFL, Ross, where the quarterbacks that are mobile and agile and can run, have some speed, can actually take advantage big time. And we usually see it happen in guys' earlier part of their careers, and it wanes down toward the latter part of their careers because they've been hit once or twice. And this guy got hit. I think it was a Seattle game. I'm not really quite sure if that was the game, but
yes,
Murray, we're talking about Murray. He got hit and he's feeling it. And I think exactly what you said. I think he has a reluctance to take off and run because he doesn't want to get that shoulder banged again. And how has it affected his passing? I think Arizona's in a tough spot here. I mean, the Rams have to be coming to play without question, without Goff. Now, they're starting a quarterback that was in, what was he playing, touch football last week, you told me? He was in the salad somewhere. Yeah. So, defensively, they're going to have to come alive. And they have a defense that can do it. They do. But let's see if they can handle Arizona. Arizona certainly is like going to pick themselves up and get themselves together here. But both teams are fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and besides Goff, the Rams could be without Cooper Kupp, their star wide receiver.
He is out.
Yeah, okay. So also Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers, their running backs there, and their defensive line stalwart and Michael Brockers. So the Rams will be shorthanded going into this game, and it's certainly, the Rams need a win or a loss by Chicago to clinch a playoff berth. And the Cardinals must win to get in, so it's a big game and nobody's going to feel sorry for you because you don't have your starting quarterback or you have players out. And so, as we well know, it's an unforgiving league in the NFL, especially a game of this magnitude, which has this kind of playoff implication. So again, Chip, I think it'd be hard for me to not take the Cardinals in this situation. Even though they're on the road, and big deal. They're playing at SoFi Stadium, which is going to be an empty house. So, all right, Chip, I'm not going to let you off the hook here. You are going to lead off with an NFL free pick here for us.
No problem. And this is a very unique game. And this is one of these games where I told you on the final week of the season where lines are so often so skewed. And I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns being almost a double-digit favorite, if not a double-digit favorite over the Steelers. We know Roethlisberger's not going to play, but I don't think anybody's going to play. And I don't think anybody for the Steelers is going to come to play. This is an outrageous number. I think if Pittsburgh's going to say, okay, we're going to give this game up, they might as well get killed. Why play tough and lose the game 21-20? You might as well get blown out 31-3. So I think Cleveland is the side here. I think the number is indicative of what's going to happen in this game. How do you lay these kind of points to the Steelers if you're the Cleveland Browns? I think we've said it before. You're not getting a deal. This bookmaker's not giving you a bargain when he's giving you Pittsburgh plus 10 points. I don't think they show up at all, Ross. Yeah. And I think Cleveland is going to they're going to win this game easily unless they just choke so much because it's their first opportunity to get into the playoffs in years. And they're
19 years, Chip.
Right. And if they're falling all over themselves and dropping the ball or making silly and stupid mistakes, maybe they don't cover this number, but I can't see taking the Steelers here. I wouldn't take them at all. There's no way I want Pittsburgh.
Well, they put themselves in a tough situation after losing to the Jets last week. And again, you're right, Chip. I mean, this line speaks volumes. Mason Rudolph will be the quarterback for Pittsburgh. I can't help but think they'll also rest some other key personnel. Yeah. And they'll try to get the running game going, which has been non-existent. In Cleveland, a lot of the worst thing that happened for Pittsburgh is Cleveland losing last week because now they're going to be even more motivated because they were embarrassed. I mean, not by the lopsided margin of a defeat, but by the fact they lost to a 1-13 Jets team, So
the guy that leads the NFL in rushing yards per attempt Chubb had 40 yards the entire game. I mean, they
Yeah.
had 40 yards, 41 yards of the team rushing for the game. So where's this Jet defense come from? Or did they just walk in thinking they were going to be able to just sleepwalk through this game and beat the Jets? This is the NFL. These guys are pros.
Yeah. Let's not forget, though, Cleveland did have their top 4 receivers out.
That's
all
true.
Related. So
Yes.
if you want to give them an excuse, that's their excuse. Okay. So in any event, you're going to take the Cleveland Browns, I take it?
Unequivocally.
Okay. I see they're anywhere from an 8.5 to a 10.5 point favorite in this game. This goes to show you the uncertainty of week 17. This is a textbook example of such. So Chip Chirimbes is going to take the Cleveland Browns minus 8.5 over the Pittsburgh Steelers as his free NFL play on Sunday. I'm going to go back to that Arizona and Rams game. I just think that with Murray at quarterback and the Arizona Cardinals being the more healthier team of the two, I really like Arizona to win this game and win it by more than that 3-point number. I'm going to take Arizona minus the 3 over the LA Rams on Sunday and get themselves into the playoffs. So too much inconsistency for me throughout the year for the Rams. And now with an unproven quarterback and the other gentleman that will be out that I mentioned earlier, really down the depth chart as far as the running back situation goes. So not a good situation for the Rams. They're going to hope that their defense keeps them in the game, but I just think that ultimately Arizona will wear them down because the Rams won't be able to move the ball. So I'm going to take Arizona here minus the 3. Chipper is going to take the Cleveland Browns minus 8.5 over Pittsburgh. There you have it, folks. 4 free picks. 2 in the NFL and 2 in college football. Chip, before we leave,
yes,
what do you got going and how you been doing?
Well, we've been doing fairly well. I mean, we're 2-1, both in the NBA and in college basketball yesterday. We won our football games yesterday, and we're trotting along. It's been a great time of the year. We've been talking about this. I like to put out 3 games every day and put out a megabuck winner, which is my best bet. I call it my megabuck play of the day because it means big dollars for all of us, Ross. But things just seem to be falling into place for me, and I'm really pleased with it. And I'm posting these games on chipwins.com every day. You can log on, follow the buy links, and we very affordable rates. We're not trying to gouge anybody. We're just trying to win. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job so far this season.
I would concur that you're doing a pretty good job. And if you're happy, certainly your clients are as well, my man. So I'm coming off a 3-0 day in college football yesterday as I had all 3 underdogs. And Army came through for me. I was a little bit nervous about that call, but they were right in the game and they were covering throughout. They lose 24-21, but they cover. I had them at +7. They went as high as 9.5. I also had Mississippi State, and I also had Ball State +10, who was a blowout winner. Huh? So
that was a great one.
3-0, 6-2 with my last 8 in college football bowl games, folks, over the last 5 days, 15-8 in all sports with my pay selection. So Ross Benjamin is starting to show signs of going on one of those torrid winning streaks, Chip.
Well, that'd be great for everyone.
Bookie beware. So anyway, I do have 3 plays up for today. Actually 2, because we're recording on New Year's Day. By time you hear this or watch this video, the Cincinnati, Georgia game had gone off already, but I will have 2 selections in the college football playoffs. Chip, I have a total in the Notre Dame game against Alabama. And I also have my college football game of the year going tonight, folks, in that Ohio State and Clemson game. So any final thoughts, Chip, before we sign off?
Well, a quick note, you just mentioned the game. Georgia went off 9.5. I don't know what happened to that one. And there were 7.5 or 7 when the day started. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as well. And we sit and we look at these number changes every day, the way they fluctuate. And it's our job to interpret it.
Yep. Until the next time, folks, we will be back on Monday. We're going to take a day. We're going to take the weekend off, I should say. We'll be back on Monday with another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. For Chip Chirimbes and Ross Benjamin, would like to wish each and every one of you a very happy New Year. Good luck with all your picks, and God bless.